6 years. I've tested at this point hundreds of kids. We test on average of 60 to 70 students every year. I think parents are much more stressed out than kids.
It's a fact.
Yeah, we are required, I'm mandated, to send home a letter 48 hours in advance of the testing time to let parents know the child will be tested. I get so many phone calls in those 48 hours. My child's not feeling well, but I'm sending them to school, but please don't test them, et cetera, et cetera. Kids, you know, it's all about how you approach this. We pick them up, we tell them we're testing them, we take them to a room that they're familiar with. I'm usually with another teacher who especially works with kindergarten kids and first graders. We explain what we have to do. We ask them to show us you're ready, give us a thumbs up. They respond, and we begin. When the first part is over, we stop, we put our pencils down, we go for a drink of water, we walk through the halls, we do some stretching, we reach for the sky, we sit down, give me a thumbs up, show me that you're ready. And this is the approach that we take. We try to make it as even and as unstressful as we can, and we reiterate to every student, do your best, you know this, just try. And that's it. I mean, we've had, I think maybe one child broke down and cried, and it turned out that they threw up an hour later because they were really sick, as in a high fever. So, you know, I think it's how you approach this. And if you stress your kid out, I don't think it helps them. And if you read this booklet and you do the test questions, and you let the kids know that there are two kinds of questions, one where they have to pick from what they see, and one where they have to listen to the instructions, that's about the most you can do and the most helpful.
Yes, the gentleman in red.
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Just a follow-up question, that's for the principal. What's the cutoff for prior years for the G&T program in 217?
What do you mean cutoff?
On the score.
I never see your score. I get a list of names, so I never know if your child just got in or should have been in a higher performing until a parent might tell us, but we don't know that information.
Yeah, we don't share it with the schools for perhaps some obvious reasons, and not to say anything negative about you or your school, but we don't want any stigma attached to any of our students as they are placed. So we know, but and the families know. And we just keep moving down that list until we can exhaust.
So the eligibility for the district schools is 90?
90, yes, 90 and above, correct. Yes.
So what is the percentage of the 99s, do you have this data, that actually get into a G&T program?
We do. We have some of this data. It's on our website. And I'm going to give you all something that has all our contact info, and if you want to ask a little more of a thorny question and get into it a little bit, I'm more than happy to respond or have my staff members respond. But it's different program to program. It's different district to district. And it's different for the citywide. So, and then the reason I sort of say I won't have a number for you right here and now, only because in some districts the wait list is completely exhausted and there are no more applicants for a program before it's even filled. So those may be programs that have a lower number of qualifiers in the district, where we still see the range of 99s all the way to 90s, but not that many people who qualify and apply. And then, you know, there's sort of the other end of the spectrum where it's like the most desirable programs that have an enormous amount of applicants where we never really get out of those 99s.
But does your office have it broken down, that information broken down by school and district?
By district.
By district.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So,
Were there any,
you know, this is a question that we get a lot from families, and it's a totally legitimate one. And I think it comes from the wanting to know, like, what's the likelihood once my child achieves this score of that they'll get a placement at any given school. And we really don't have that predictive ability because the numbers really fluctuate year to year in terms of who's taking the test, who's eligible, and where they're applying. But we have historical data. We have what's happened in the past.
Is there anyone who didn't ask a question? Yes. Could you stand up?
Sure. Actually, a question for the principal for the 217 school. Just curious, I mean, one thing I'm trying to understand better is the gap between the general education students and GNT students at the end of 5 years. Are there any statistics, whether it's school placement for middle school or testing statistics you can maybe share with us so that we can better understand how much more advanced they will be at the end of 5 years if they are lucky enough to get into GNT?
So since our gifted and talented kids is just entering their 5th grade, I can't speak to what middle school will offer them. I can only say that in our building, when our kids get to 5th grade, and we do have a good 50% of them that do apply to other District 2 schools, they pretty much get into their top 3 choices. They're pretty happy where they're going. In other words, we probably appeal maybe 1 or 2 every year when families may not be satisfied with their placement. So all of our kids, all of our kids in our gen ed classes who apply outside of this school get into programs that they're happy to be in. I don't have any data right now in terms of G&T and where they get placed because right now the 11 students are currently in 5th grade.
Your program has grown each year, and this year is the year that it's grown to be 5th grade. So, yeah.
How about 3rd grade level tests? Like 3rd grade, they also take tests, right?
All of them take tests.
Yeah.
All of our 3rd graders do fantastic, actually. Citywide, we do better than all the other citywide programs in 3rd grade. Our kids are really strong, general ed and G&T. I don't have that statistics where we don't compare the students. What we're really looking at is, hey, you, the student, how did you do from 3rd grade to 4th grade, and what are we going to do to help you maintain your 3, raise your 3 to a 4? We're looking at the academics that way. We haven't divided the percentages, but generally in 3rd grade, our students do really well in this building. So that answers you.
Mandana, maybe, is there anything else that, since you spoke to us last and we seem to have a different audience today, that you might want to share with the parents that are here about your school, not just specifically G&T, that you might want to tell them?
I mean, just stuff that we are working on, the question that you had asked about middle school. While we know that District 2 has some amazing District 2 choices, as we begin to work with Cornell and we rethink what our K-8 program looks like in our building, we are thinking about ways so that this is a place where families choose to stay until 8th grade, and that we are looking at different programs in terms of how we're enriching kids in the middle school and incorporating more of the STEM opportunities for kids, working backwards, starting with middle school classrooms where this year we have kids who are taking some coding classes or some introduction to coding, and then working backwards into our 5th grade and thinking about how this looks like in the elementary school. That was the one thing I thought of, but I'm drawing a blank right now. It's 8 o'clock.
Anybody who, yes, the lady in red. I'm trying to get the people who haven't asked. Go
My
ahead.
name is Neha.
Could you stand up?
I have a daughter who's in grade 1 and she's taking up the test for grade 2. So as you said, the possibility is already less that the children have already gone into the gifted and talented program and she has lesser of a chance already. So as of this year's testing, if she gives the district and she gets the good level, but if can she give another test in the same district to see whether she can get eligible to enter another school of the same gifted and talented program, or else she'll have to wait for the next year.
If she doesn't get a placement this year,
Yes.
so you'll be, if your child is eligible and you apply to the programs you're interested in,
Right.
your child will be on the wait list for those programs until early fall, and we'll keep making offers, and they could potentially get an offer until then. If they receive no placement by the end of October, then you would need to retest in order to see if you'd be eligible for 3rd grade.
Okay, so for the same year she cannot retest, right?
No, it really is a one single snapshot.
Because this is the first time she's in the country to give the test. It's not that she has given it earlier and she was not cleared.
Right.
But it's the first time she'll be giving the test. So I just wanted to know.
Will your child? Do you already have a test appointment? And
Not yet.
not yet. Will you be testing at your school?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So really, you have this opportunity to have your child tested, and that will be for the 14-15 school year. I'm sorry, the 15-16 school year. Yeah. And then the next year would be 16-17.
Anyone else with, yes, stand up.
Two questions for Principal Beckman. So if I understand the different bits of information we're getting here, if our children score above 90th percentile, from a historical perspective, what's the probability that they actually get a seat here in the GMT program?
I mean, we don't want you leaving Roosevelt Island. So we work together to work towards it. And as Daniel mentioned, that we've waited up until October to put kids in our program. Meaning they had to make offers to all these other kids who did not live on Roosevelt Island before we could put our own kids in our program. So if there is a seat in our building, we're going to find the space for the child. It does get harder as you get to older grade levels where classes might be reaching more of a cap, but then there are other grade levels where the rubber band and there's space.
So you mentioned that, maybe I'm not understanding all the data correctly, but you mentioned that currently one of the classes is very small, right? So that would mean that in K, right?
So like 2 kindergarten classes right now, I know that unless Daniel tells me tomorrow, oh, you're going to have 32 more first graders joining you because kids have retaken their test. Right now, what we have moving up from kindergarten to first grade is almost a full classroom. A number of those families between now and September are going to move. So there's going to be space. But when I tell him in June that I have space, it's going to change between now and September. And that's why the conversation is ongoing, saying, oh, we just have more space. Are there any other kids that you can place into our program? So the DOE really does work with schools and families to really get classrooms as full as they possibly can. And we're constantly working over the summer in terms of configurations where we say, oh, we're going to have this many classrooms. And then we realize, oh, we can actually accommodate more students. And so we kind of respond to the number of kids that we have, and it varies from year to year. So, like for, yeah.
If I may, a more general question. Do you know at this point, is there any possibility of having a full-day pre-K program?
So the conversation that we have is we're still one of a few programs that still have half-day programs, and they are going to be phasing them out over time. They're just looking to see what's the best move. So something they're considering that is if they phase out our 2 half-day programs, which currently services about 34 students, we would then only have 1 full-day program, which means we would be offering. There would be less seats, but for a full-day model. And then there are also concerns that the school have, or I have, in terms of how you're really supporting a 4-year-old in the model of a full day, which is different than kindergarten. And while the DOE says, yay, we want all this for our children, they're not very quick to provide the funding and the supports to make it happen. So those are my questions and wondering to the city. But yes, at some point we will end up being a full-day program. I can't tell you right now if it's next year or if it's the following year, but we will.
Do you know when you're going to know that?
They should be making decisions sometime in February. Pretty soon.
Have you seen improvements in the last couple of years in the school in general? Have parents been getting more involved, and have you seen that be have a benefit for the school? Has that been changing at all? And also, you mentioned that there may be some type of partnership with Cornell. When do you think that might be implemented?
So our partnership with Cornell is ongoing. We started that about a year and a half ago, and that's something that we work on and we keep adding to what we're doing together. In terms of parental involvement, it's what every teacher wants. I mean, you love your children, but it's far more fulfilling when you have parents that are engaged and responding to what you're doing in your classroom. We've we've made a huge effort to make sure that communicating with families is a priority. So teachers will email families weekly with an update of what's happening in their classroom or activities that are happening in the school. Teachers will provide workshops for families twice a year, so families can go to anyone's workshop when they think it's important or it's interesting to them. So we think that parental engagement is a really key to the success of the school because we want that feedback and that conversation. It's definitely increased every year. If anything, what the PTA is helpful, and it's terrible but they really do help us pay for activities and opportunities that the budget can't really provide for students. And these kids are entitled and should be getting a lot of these programs. So our PTA is amazing in terms of raising funds so that we can make sure that in every single grade level we've got these wonderful enrichment programs happening, and making sure that if there are certain resources or materials that Ursula notices that a grade team might need, that we're able to get those materials in a timely way. So yeah, we've seen a change over the years.
Because I've noticed that just in the past few years the island has gotten a little bit more crowded. And so I was just wondering if with more people moving to the island, if you've seen an increase in that involvement, or if,
if I can, the last meeting we had with the school and the principal, we had the PTA president speak to us, and I think that we've heard from a lot of our schools in District 8, and Roosevelt Island is part of Community District 8, and you have a very active PTA, and they spoke to us about what they're doing, and it seems a good group. So a lot of you seem like you have children that are getting ready to apply for school. So if your children do go to school on Roosevelt Island, I would recommend that you get involved with the PTA. A school is always better if the parents are involved. And we saw how involved the president was who spoke to us. And to me, that's a real plus for the school. So the parents who are thinking about sending their children here should also think about, this is a little plug for the PTA, get involved with the PTA. It will be better for your child. It will be better for the school. I also want to, Lorraine, would you stand up? Lorraine Rademacher is the parent coordinator for the school. And for those of you who do not have children at the school but will have, I'm sure that you will have contact with Lorraine, and she's been very helpful to Hattie and myself in arranging meetings and so on. Thank you, Lorraine. Any other question? Yes.
My name is Katrina. I have a 4-year-old who just started in pre-K class. You mentioned that your G&T program has breached classes. Does it influence anyhow the quality of education of older kids who are placed with younger kids in the same room?
No,
How
if
it usually
anything, I mean, again, the teachers are really looking at who the child is. So when we walk in there, and a model that we really emphasize with all of our teachers is the idea about small group instruction, because we know when kids have more of that one-on-one or that smaller group attention with a teacher, they're going to grow in a different way. So teachers will be mindful about having small group pockets of lesson that are happening, and they'll interchange the first graders and second graders depending on academic needs. So you might have a really high-performing first graders who's doing the math with the second graders because that's where he is ability-wise, or vice versa in terms of a second grader who's still struggling with a few concepts. And as I mentioned to you, you've got that range in G&T just like you have that range in Gen Ed. So the teachers, have, if anything, last year was a different year because it was the first time for everyone. But this year it's the second year, so if anything, we're refining what we had done last year. And we're finding that it's been a really good experience in terms of just really learning about the child and just more about the scope and sequence, about what you can do with kids. So it's been successful.
The lady in pink way over there, did you have a question?
Yes. I'm sorry, I came in a little late, so I don't know if you answered this. But
Could you stand up?
Sure. The 5th grade class that's there now, you said that's the inaugural class. Will it be going on to 6th, 7th, and 8th? Or
So in District 2, G&T ends by 5th grade, and then in District 2 we have middle school choice. So students will apply to middle schools, whether it's ours or others in District 2, or the students who are from District 30 could be looking at schools in District 30.
Okay. Is that the case for citywides also, or?
Citywides are different, I think,
They are
They go to
different.
8th grade, right, or 12th?
or 12.
Most of our citywides go through 12th grade. There is a process for enrolling in middle and high school as well. I'm not real familiar with it, but if you send us an email, I'm happy to put you in touch with the folks who do middle school and high school.
We'll have another meeting on middle school and high school. I think
I'm happy to
we
take your
should
info.
stick with this for tonight, because that's each area has its own separate set of rules and regulations and how they do it.
Oh, you were talking about the enrichment. What exactly is the enrichment classes that you give? You said the PTA help support.
So it varies from grade level to grade level. Our kindergartners through second graders participate in yoga. Hold on, I have to work backwards. One of our grades, second grade, third grade, deals with I Dig to Learn and gardening. Our fourth graders will work with the New York Historical. Our second graders and fourth graders work with the New York Historical Society. Looking at Ursula now. Our fifth graders do ballroom dancing with the Main Street Theater.
African dance for third grade. Gold opera for fourth grade. Salvadori for middle school, 6 to 8. Studio in a school for all grades in lower school.
Studio
Is an art appreciation, an art making program. Some of these residencies are a month or two, and some are more than half the school year. They are generously sponsored by many of this is paid for by PTA contributions by parents. We do receive some grants, which we actively look for. And we're always trying to introduce more of the arts into the regular school day, because we are mandated to offer this, but we are not given the budget to do it. So it's a challenge, but I think we can pride ourselves on what the students are exposed to.